There is a plan being implemented today that you can read, follow the footnotes in this book. You can see the globalists, like George Soros, pushing for the death of the dollar. Remember, George Soros made his first billions betting against the pound. And now George Soros told the Daily Mail in London in March of this year that he came out of retirement to start running his quantum investment fund again. And the international global recession has been a very good recession for him. He's made $2.9 billion, he claimed in that article, largely betting against the dollar and betting against the US economy. The winners are going to be the globalists. Henry Paulson in the Treasury made millions selling America in outsourcing jobs to China. The globalists will always, Henry Kissinger isn't suffering arguing for global management, which translates into the UN, the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, the World Trade Organization, setting the rules for the management of the world economy. And President Obama agrees. President Obama is a globalist and was promoted and funded by the globalists for his globalist views. He's just there to do a job. And President Obama's job is to make sure we advance the selling of America. America for sale. And it's going to go at a very cheap price. Because China's already started saying they want to use these public-private partnerships, saying, why don't we, instead of just holding all this US Treasury debt, why don't we get some equity? And China's already proposed a scheme in which China, for retiring US debt, could gain control of, operate, and manage US ports, US highways, US infrastructure of a wide variety. I mean, I've got a good idea. California's bankrupt. Let's just sell it to China. And maybe a dozen other states. Because China will be happy to come in and pick up the equity and manage the states. The idea that the United States Congress is even contemplating universal health care should be a sign to every American that we ought to take the entire Congress out and try them for treason. There is no way comprehensive medical care is going to be budget or deficit neutral. It's going to cost trillions, and those trillions are going to be deficit spending. I invite anybody who doubts that to go back into the 1960s, early 60s, 63, 64, and read the history of the Kerr-Mills bill, which was the original version of Medicare, and read the promises it would never go into deficit. Well, anybody who would believe Congress saying it will never create a massive takeover of 16% of the US economy and they know how to pay for it, ought to go to a drug clinic and let the patients convince you they have a plan to get off heroin. They've all got a plan to get off heroin. It's just that they don't do it. And the US Congress is on heroin, and the problem is it won't work. Even if people say, look, we suffer, we feel for people who don't have insurance and they can't get medical care. The humanitarian feelings here are sound. But both the far left and the far right knows that the American people will be suckers to that and will put into place programs we cannot afford, which inevitably, in the reality of that, will bankrupt the United States, with the consequence that we lose our sovereignty. And if that's not part of the plan, if that can't be figured out in Treasury or in the Federal Reserve, then I have a good book I'd like to send to those people. Because the economics of what they're doing dictate that these are the inevitable consequences. Just as the Federal Reserve has become a bubble machine. The housing bubble was caused by federal Reserve keeping interest rates under Greenspan artificially low in 2003 and 2004 at 1%. Well, Helicopter Ben has improved on that. Ben Bernanke now has rates at 0. And the result is the stock market has gone to 10,000 because the dollar has become the carry trade. What the carry trade means is Goldman Sachs, the investment banks, the investment managers can borrow from the Federal Reserve at 0 and invest in the stock market, make huge millions or billions of profits, retire their debt, all on your credit. It's a carry trade. And it lasts as long as the stock market's going up. At some point, when interest rates rise because of the inevitable consequence of borrowing all this debt and people demanding more. You know how the Federal Reserve has managed not to have interest rates go up? The Federal Reserve has been buying Treasury debt to keep interest rates low and keep this carry trade going. I want to make sure you heard that. The Federal Reserve is buying Treasury debt. Now, first of all, the Federal Reserve is a private bank. It's not part of the government. But this is equivalent to the Obama administration using the MasterCard to pay the Visa bill. And for any of you that have tried that from time or here or there, it doesn't work very well, does it? You can do it for a while. But eventually, that strategy ends. And when it ends, interest rates go up. When interest rates go up, unemployment deepens, housing foreclosures deepen, bank failures return, and the stock market goes down. We are inevitably going to have a double-dip recession, even if the Federal Reserve tries to postpone it with low rates. Now, to prevent some time for questions, I'm just going to make a couple of comments. In the last third of this book, I lay out a strategy for individuals to prepare for these coming hard times. It includes values that the Constitution Party is going to find very comfortable. Returning to families. Siblings or brothers and sisters lose jobs, bring their families in with you. Expand your homes if you need to. At least have one primary residential real estate where the family can live. These are strategies that have been used for generations and go back to how people got through the Depression, when families could live on farms. Small communities. I'm also encouraging the return to small communities. Did you know that over 200 communities in the United States are printing their own money? It's legal. Go look at Berkshire's. I document them in America for sale. I show you the communities printing their own money. It's legal the same way that frequent flyer miles are published by airlines. It's script. And it's bought at a discount in a bank and then spent in the local communities with their merchants. The merchants agree to hire those who are American citizens or here legally to work. They agree to sell goods bought and made in the United States. It's a community supporting that community. And I think this is going to have to start from the families, work to the communities, and then the states. The states are entering into compacts now, passing 9th and 10th Amendment resolutions, saying, as the 9th and 10th Amendments do, the federal government's powers are limited to the enumerated powers of the Constitution. You can't read the general welfare clause of the Constitution to say the federal government can do whatever it wants. There's limited enumerated powers. And I think you're going to see states, maybe Texas, Oklahoma, a variety of states passing these resolutions and telling the Federal Reserve, keep your highway money. Keep your welfare money. The illegal immigrants don't like it. There's the border. See ya.